Welcome back. My name is Eden Isora, and I'm so glad to see you here today. This is episode 3 of the ASMR podcast, where we will be just hanging out nice and cozy and talking for a little bit, and hopefully it will help you relax, and I know it will help me relax. I'm really happy because I had hiccups and they just went away just in time, so hopefully they don't come back. I guess hiccups could be ASMR, but don't worry, I'm not gonna do that to you. Yeah. Today, it's like 3 p.m., but it feels so much later for some reason, because it was kind of gloomy out all day, so it made it feel later. And I brought my dog Lexi to get her stitches out at the vet, so that was good. And I'm just happy that she is doing well. So I have some random topics here that I have thought of over the past couple weeks, and so we can discuss them. So one thing is crow's feet. This is very random, but you know those little wrinkles that people get like right here by their eyes? I don't know if I have any yet, I can't tell, but yeah, I guess it's called crow's feet. It's like a little 2 lines right there, and I don't know, I know that wrinkles are a sign of aging, and some people get like Botox and whatever to try to get rid of or prevent those. But for some reason, I find crow's feet super attractive. And I don't know why. I guess maybe it's because it kind of adds this wise look to a person. But I didn't realize this until last year. I went on a date with somebody, and they were young. They were like 25. But I noticed, I don't know, I really liked his eyes. And I just felt like they seemed so wise, and there was like a little twinkle in them. Now, I figured out, because I was trying to figure out what it was that I liked, and I realized like those little lines really added something there. And I don't know, I thought it was really interesting, and since then I've always paid attention in movies and if I see somebody in person. And yeah, without fail, like anytime I see somebody, man or woman, that has those little lines, in my opinion, it always adds to the vibe. So yeah, that's a good thing, I think. But that's random, so I don't really remember why I thought to add that to my notes, but maybe it was because I was watching a show and I saw somebody with it and I was like, oh yeah, I want to see if anyone else thinks that today there has been a bazillion, like so many crows in my yard. Way more than usual. Usually I'll see like one or two flying in the distance, but today I've seen a lot. And when I was out today, I saw a car with a 777 license plate, which is so exciting because I haven't seen one of those in a while. So yeah, that made me really happy. Another thing that I've been thinking about that has to do with looks also is this weird phenomenon or phenomena. I don't know, but it's something I've noticed over the past like year or so. Everybody that I meet, new people, like I've never met them before, but they all look familiar. And I don't know if that's just because I'm getting older, and the more you meet people, the more you've met like every archetype of person, and so your brain kind of, when you meet someone new, you just identify what archetype they fit with, and then you recognize it immediately. But it's weird because it's like I keep meeting people that are new, but they don't feel new, they don't feel unfamiliar, they feel very familiar. And it kind of has a deja vu type vibe to it, where it's like I'm meeting somebody for the first time, but it's like I know exactly who they are. And this happens with everyone I interact with. So, is that just a growing older thing? I don't know. But yeah, there's no stranger danger anymore because there are no strangers anymore. I do also wonder if maybe that's because of my spirituality that I have been indulging in the past year or so, where I'm kind of more inclined to feel connected with others regardless of our interactions. So maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know. Another thing that I've been feeling lately is I've been learning how to set boundaries with people, and that means saying no when I want to say no. And you know, in the past, like throughout my life, I've had times where I was more of a people pleaser, because when I do something that makes someone else unhappy, like when I do something that I know they don't want me to do, or on the flip side, when I don't do something that they do want me to do, I can physically feel their unhappiness in my body. And so, you know, growing up, that meant that I would do the thing that I knew they wanted me to do so that they would feel good and then I would feel good because, I could feel what they were feeling basically. But obviously the problem with that is that other people are not always, and actually very rarely, looking out for your interest, which is fine because that's not their job. Their job is to take care of themselves, and your job is to take care of yourself. So sometimes what they want and what you want are not the same thing. And then you have to make the decision of choosing yourself or the other person. And it's all about balance, Obviously, for people who are more on the other side of the scale, they might want to try doing things for others once in a while. But if you're on the side that I was on, which is always trying to do, whatever would make the other person happy, and again, it's not even coming from a selfless place. It's coming from the desire to feel good myself, because when the other person felt good, I felt good. But those little decisions compound over time, and one day you can wake up and be in a life that was created by making decisions in favor of other people for years, and you can end up somewhere that you don't want to be. And that's when you have to start making decisions with your own interest in mind. And of course, that doesn't mean that you never do nice things for other people, but you don't do them at the cost of your own safety, happiness, comfortability. You need your cup to be overflowing before you can help others. And so, if helping someone or doing something that somebody else wants you to do directly, negatively impacts you, that's very rarely the right choice, or the choice that's in alignment with your highest good. And so, lately, over the past few months, I have experimented with setting boundaries. So scary, I know. And that means that sometimes when people ask me to do things, like a favor or whatever, I say no. And I feel good about it because I know I'm acting with discernment and I'm taking care of the person that I'm responsible for, which is me. But there is this kind of aftermath where you feel kind of bad, because just because you make the right decision doesn't mean that you will immediately feel really good. There is a moment immediately after you say no that you feel really good, but you can still feel the other person's discomfort, and you can feel them thinking things about you. And a lot of that's just projection. You assume you know what they're thinking about you. But it's hard because nobody else can validate your perspective because they're not you. They don't understand all of the nuances that went into your decision. And so you have to sit in that discomfort and be okay with some people thinking that you're a jerk and you're selfish, or coming up with conspiracies about you and why you might be doing or not doing the things that you would have done in the past. And so it's part of the process. But it can feel a little heavy sometimes. So I'm working through that right now. And, just getting used to the fact that not everybody will see my intentions, and not everybody will think I'm nice, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with on an intellectual level, but on a visceral level, it feels bad. So, whatever. I did also want to talk a little bit about why I'm single. So, as you might know, if you've watched some of my other older videos, I used to be in a long-term relationship for 8 years, I guess. And that was from the time that I was 15 until I was 21. And so I guess that's 6 years. I don't know, whatever. It was a long time. So yeah, I was in a long-term relationship. It was very serious. We lived together I moved in with him when we were together for 3 months, and we lived together the entire relationship. And we were very toxic at the beginning. There was a lot of possessiveness and jealousy and insecurity on both sides. We were both a little toxic, but we were also very young, so that can be expected. But eventually we grew and changed a lot, as anybody would over the course of that many years. And we both grew in maturity, and eventually our relationship got to a much more healthy place. And we bought a house together, and things were really good. It felt healthy. And we ended up breaking up a year after we bought our house. And that was because our relationship got so healthy to the point that we had communication on a level we had never had before. and some information was shared with me about something that had happened years before infidelity, and I really, really respected the fact that he had the courage to tell me, even though, of course, he knew that he was risking everything. But at the point of his personal development journey that he was at, he had no other choice. He would either have to stop developing as a person, becoming more self-aware, or he would have to face what he had done. And he chose to face it, which is very commendable, and that's not easy at all. So, respect. However, as much as I respect someone who's able to do that, I also cannot continue in a relationship after infidelity has happened. I don't judge people who do, but I don't have that in me. And also knowing that somebody I had spent 4 years after the incident, I had spent 4 years spending every day with them, looking in their eyes, and they were capable of lying to me blatantly to my face for 4 years. I'm not comfortable continuing a partnership with a person that is capable of that. As much as I do respect the growth, it just was not going to work anymore. So we split up, and that launched me into a time period of my life that was the most intensive growth experience. I had a lot of things happen in a short amount of time, and I was really at rock bottom for a while, and I came across some really dark individuals during that time, which was cool because I got to almost meet these shadow parts of myself, but on the outside, and it's kind of like a mirror, but the opposite. It's like I met somebody who was kind of the opposite of me. So it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it was like the external version of me was me, and then they were the dark side of me, but projected out as a person. And so basically they were just the opposite of me, and they taught me a lot of lessons in a really brutal way, but it was very intriguing also. And so that was the first person that I was really romantically interested in after my breakup. And that connection ended very chaotically and bad, and I was no longer able to talk to that person for a lot of reasons. but it was very intense. Sorry, somebody keeps texting me. But, yeah, it was very intense. And I was taught a lot about setting boundaries during that connection as well. And I was taught about choosing myself over another person if I have to. And when it comes down to it, knowing that I will always stick up for me. And at the beginning of that connection, that was not the case. At the beginning of that connection, I was in the habit of sacrificing my well-being in the interest of helping another. But that's not how it works, obviously. People can only help themselves. You can help others, but only if they are willing to help themselves first. If somebody is unwilling to help themselves, if you go to help them, you're enabling them, and they're going to suck everything you have out of you and keep suffering. And once you are empty, they'll get rid of you and find someone else to suck the life force out of, basically. And so in that connection, I really cared about this person, but they were over and over again putting me in very bad situations. And so eventually I had to learn that it's me or them. And I finally, eventually, after messing up a lot of times, I chose myself. Which meant, of course, letting them go. And it sounds easy, but obviously when you really care about somebody, it is still painful. So yeah. But after that connection, I had a couple of other connections, but it was always very light, and I kind of started noticing patterns about myself. And I can appreciate beauty in a lot of people, but there's only a small amount of people that I am intensely attracted to. And I don't really want to date or be in a relationship with someone that I'm not intensely attracted to. I'd just rather not. I'd rather be friends, you know? So that feels like something that's out of my direct control. And a pattern that I've noticed over the past couple years is that the people that I am intensely attracted to are not in alignment with my vision for myself and the prerequisites that I have for a partner. They don't match up. And so I'm comfortable being alone. You know, it sucks sometimes, but I'd rather be alone than sacrifice my own vision just to be with somebody that I'm intensely attracted to. So that's kind of the reason that I'm single, is because I'm meant to be at the moment. And the more that I develop, I do think that the people that I am intensely attracted to will change, and I will become attracted to people that are more in alignment with my vision and whatever, I think that'll be cool when it happens, but I'm in no rush. It's interesting. And also, because I don't want to have kids, there's really no rush, because, if I had this whole timeline of wanting to get married and have kids, maybe there would be a little bit of a time on it, but I don't want kids, and I don't know that I would ever want to get married again, unless it was for tax reasons, or if it was something that the person that I cared about really wanted. I'd be down, whatever, but I'm not a huge fan of the whole ownership thing. I think that having a life partner is something that you should wake up and choose every day, and it's not something that you should feel forced to do just because you signed a piece of paper 20 years ago, So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. And, yeah. It is tricky sometimes because, I am interested in other people, and I like talking to new people, especially in a romantic way. I find it very fun and very entertaining. So I still do that sometimes, but pretty much every time I've done that in the past couple months, it ends so quickly because they immediately do something that I know just already it's not gonna work. So it's I don't know. But I kind of like being alone as well, because there is something that I've noticed about myself that happens when I'm in a relationship, and I get this fear of losing the person, and it almost feels like I'm holding my breath the whole relationship, just waiting for them to leave or die or something to happen. And being alone is I can relax. There's nobody that I have to worry about betraying me or dying or losing. And so it gives me a lot of peace of mind, weirdly, to be alone. And so sometimes when I think about potentially falling in love again, it kind of makes me nauseous, because I know how that feels to have that fear of losing somebody. But then again, because I got to have that whole experience of feeling like that for so many years with my ex, and then finally my worst fear manifested into reality, and I got to experience that. I got to experience losing the thing that I did not want to lose the most out of everything. Aside from dying myself, losing him was my ultimate fear. And so I got to experience that, and it was really gut-wrenching and intense, but it was also very freeing because it built this sort of respect for myself. Just the fact that I know that I faced my almost biggest fear, and I have had I would consider it to be a near-death experience as well. So in a way, I almost got to face that fear of death too. I got to be kind of in that like before death type of area, and that was a really cool experience as well. Very freeing, because once you know, to a certain extent obviously, what something is going to be like, the fear is kind of gone. And there's a quote, I forget who said it, but somebody said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And for me, I'm a very future-oriented sort of person, which means I do think about the past, but nowhere near as much as I think about the future. And when I do think about the past, it's more about recognizing patterns that could help me in the future. But I don't really care about the past. I don't care about changing it or anything like that. So what that means when it comes to fear is that if something that I'm afraid of actually happens, I'm fine. It hurts a lot, but I can handle a lot. But the time that is horrible and like torture is before something happens, when I am anticipating it. So like if I'm in a relationship and I'm afraid that they will cheat on me or leave or die, just imagining it and feeling that gnaw at me is way worse than it actually happening. And so the good thing is that once you actually experience certain events, you get to sit with that reality of knowing that, so what if it happens? I will be fine. I know, because I've already experienced really intense and awful things, and it was fine. Your brain has different modes it goes into to protect you. So the things that you imagine happening, you imagine it happening so intense and so vivid. But at least for me, when I experienced different events, I kind of like was in a different mode. It's hard to explain, but if you've experienced something like that, then you might know, kind of like a disassociated state where you're both hyper aware and also you are disconnected from your body and you're not really feeling everything as much as you would expect. So that's really cool knowing that that happens, because it's kind of like this warm blanket of protection. And now I can apply that knowledge to anything I'm afraid of in the future. And somebody made a video once that I watched where they talked about how the worst thing that can ever happen is you feel a bad feeling. Because if you think about it, if you think about your biggest fears, like dying, getting cheated on, I don't know, whatever else, getting tortured, stuff like that, what you're afraid of is the experience. And even like if you're afraid of dying because you're afraid of what's after, you're afraid of what that experience will be like, how it will feel, what it will look like, and how it will make you feel. And even like if you get murdered or tortured, all that is a bad feeling. A really bad feeling, I would assume. So it's like kind of funny, but also comforting, because if you can make peace with sitting with bad feelings, which means that you stop trying to avoid them no matter what, and you just accept it and become aware of that bad feeling in your body, this opens you up to this new experience of life where the limits keep falling away and your fears keep dissipating right before your eyes. Because before, when you would think about doing a certain thing and you turn and look and you see your fear, before you would turn away because it feels really bad to look at that and to feel that viscerally. But once you are okay with feeling things that feel bad, you can face your fear and feel the bad feelings, and after a little while realize, that's all it was. Just some bad feelings. And you become so intrigued by the feelings, by the bad feelings itself, that you almost start to look at it a little bit more intently, and it creates this weird push and pull where it's like before the fear was intimidating you and you keep looking away and it's getting bigger. But now when you turn to look at it and you're curious and you look more, the fear starts getting nervous and the fear is like disappearing and it doesn't want you to look at it anymore. But you're curious, so you keep looking, and you're so curious and focused on just learning about this bad feeling that you almost want to hold on to it with your focus, but it keeps pulling away. And you keep looking at it until it's just a tiny speck in the distance, and then it's gone. And you think about it for a few minutes, or a few days, a few months, and then your awareness comes back, and you realize, oh, I feel fine now. That was weird. And the thing that you were so afraid of for so long has magically disappeared because you allowed yourself to experience it fully. And during the process of that, you realized on such a visceral level how it actually wasn't as bad as you expected. So, I don't know. Hopefully that made sense. That's just kind of my attempt at explaining fear, because that's been a big lesson for me over the past couple years. And it's taken a long time, but I will tell you that the reality that I experience on a daily basis is vastly different now than the reality I used to experience a couple years ago. And I'm not even talking about actual things being different. I'm just talking about the filter that fear casts over everything. And the more you face your various fears, and they dissipate here and they dissipate there, you see the world in a much more vibrant and friendly way. And now that I say that, I think maybe that's why people look more familiar to me now. Because years ago, I had so much fear layered on top of my perspective that maybe that made people appear as strangers. In a way, when I would meet them, maybe I would kind of project this stranger danger onto them as a means to protect myself. I don't know. But I'm so grateful to experience life in this more alive, more safe way. I never knew that that was possible because I was raised in a way that injected fear into me from the moment I gained consciousness. I was injected with fear in the form of my parents' belief system. We won't go into that too much, but let's just say since the moment I gained consciousness, I experienced life in a very fearful way, and it sucked. It fucking sucked. And I never knew that this reality existed underneath all those layers of fear filters. And it's really cool to imagine how reality will improve for me as I continue facing fears as they come up, and I continue to sit with uncomfortable feelings. Who knows? I'm really excited. It's hard to imagine it getting better than it already is, because everywhere I go I see magic. And I'm talking about magic in the mundane, you know. I'm not talking about unicorns yet, but I'm open-minded. But anyways, yeah. another thing that is kind of related to why I'm single is the fact that I, in the past, have tended to fall in love with people's potential and not the reality of who they are. And that's because I've met some really amazing people who have really good personalities, and they're so intensely attractive, and I can just see this potential in them, and it's so feasible. It's right there. Like, I can see it in my mind. I can see them taking advantage of their potential and blossoming. But the more I get to know them as a person, I observe them consistently making choices that are self-sabotage and just kind of, from my perspective, it looks like they are determined to not meet their potential. And of course that's my own biased perspective, because they might have a completely different vision for their life than what I can see for them. But it just irritates me sometimes when people open up to me about their dreams, and it's very doable, and in my mind I can totally imagine them doing what they want to do, and I know they would do good at it, and I know that they would be happier doing what they want, but they continuously don't do that, and they continuously go in the opposite direction. And at a certain point I have to respect their decision. They have free will, from what I know. And so if that's the choice that they want to make, it's really on me if I want to continue seeing them through rose-tinted glasses and, interacting with them as if they are this fantasy person that I've created in my mind, when obviously in reality they are not that person. So I have to learn to not do that, and I'm really trying to, when I meet new people, I'm trying to take them at face value now and not read in to what they do too much. And it's hard because it's so fun. It's so fun to create this whole story about them. And, it feels like second nature to me. I think that's an INFJ thing too. It's very natural feeling to me to meet somebody new and project this ideal version of them going forward, because it's possible, it is possible. Like, the things that I imagine are very within the realm of possibility, but they are not based on the consistent actions that I've personally observed the person doing. So I kind of just have to let go and let them make their own decisions, which I already do, but sometimes in my mind I make up reasons why they did this or that decision, and my mind is like a GPS. It always can reroute. So if I have a certain view of a person, a fantasy, and that person does something that directly goes against my fantasy, my mind can just reroute and come up with some reason why they had to do that and bring it back into my fantasy. So that's why I have to become aware of it, let it go, and then I can see the person through the lens of reality and how they actually are without my fun little fantasy involved. And then I can look at who they are as a person in reality, and then I can look at who I am as a person in reality and my vision, and figure out if these two people are on the same path or not, or at least in a similar path. And if they are going completely different ways, then I of course have the option of being weird and desperate and trying to follow the person's path, but that's not fun, and I'm already so in my own vision that that's virtually impossible for me to do. So at a certain point, reality sets in, and it's gotta happen. But it's very interesting, at least. It's a cool, interesting experience. I do wonder if you know what I mean, because all of this is kind of off the top of my head. Like, I wrote down a couple different things that I wanted to talk about, but I kind of just went off my own stream of consciousness. So sometimes when I do that, I don't know what you will understand and what you won't, because there's a lot of context that I have that you don't have. But I think I explained it in a way that you will understand. Not all of you, but some of you, hopefully. But anyways, I really appreciate you being here, and I'm having really a lot of fun with the podcast type of vibe, these really long rambles. Let me know if there are any topics that you want me to ramble about. Yeah, it's fun to talk about different things, and I always have my own perspective. So let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, or if you have any questions for me. I'm pretty much an open book, kind of. So yeah, I guess I will let you go now, and hopefully I will see you very, very soon.